Thank you. Right, thank you everybody. Sorry for the delay in this meeting, but we've had a technical issue, so we adjourned while 10:45. Now this is a licensing subcommittee for Tuesday the 2nd of February 2021. On the agenda there are 2 items: members' declarations of interest. Members are reminded that the requirement to make an appropriate verbal declaration at the meeting on any item or items on this agenda in which they have an interest. Having done so, members are asked to complete a form detailing the declaration, which will be available from the committee services officers at the meeting. Item 2, application for the review of the premises licence for Zabaka 2 Horse Fair Precinct, Horse Fair, Pontefract, WF8 1PD, pages 1 to 21 on the agenda papers. Before we move forward, I'm going to introduce myself and other members of the licensing committee and officers, and after I've done that, will other people attending introduce themselves. I'm Councillor Martin Johnson, chairing this meeting. I have 2 colleagues, Councillor Richard Taylor and Councillor Nick Farmer. I have our legal officer, Mr. Paul Jakes. I have our licensing officer, Mr. David Hollis, and I have IT person, Gregor Jones, and Karen Malcolm from committee services. With that, I'll let everybody else introduce themselves. Just don't all shout at once. Thank you. So if the police would go first.
PC John Kay from Wakefield District Licensing Team.
Victoria Cartmel, solicitor for the licence holder.
Paul Dean, Wakefield Council Licensing, acting as response authority today.
Fazil Kadey is a licence holder.
Chris Watson, Public Health, Wakefield Council.
PC Warden, Police Licensing Wakefield.
Sergeant Thorpe, Police Licensing Wakefield.
Right, that seems as though everybody who is here has introduced himself. So just before we make a start, I'll just go through the rules, or the way this licensing subcommittee will proceed. We've done the declarations of interest. All applications, including review applications that come before the subcommittee, will be treated on their own merits, and the licensing authority will take its decisions based upon 1, the merits of the application; 2, the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives; 3, the policy of the licensing authority; 4, the recently revised guidance issued by the Home Office under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. The 4 licensing objectives are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. Next, the legal officer will summarise the application for review and the representations received. The responsible authorities and interested parties will put forward any further information and or call witnesses as required. Subcommittee members may ask any relevant question of the responsible authority, interested parties or witnesses. The premises licence holder or his or her representative will be invited to respond to the objections as required. Subcommittee members may ask any relevant question of the premises licence holder or their witnesses. All parties will be given an opportunity to make final statements and sum up their case if they wish to do so. Order, responsibility authorities, interested parties and premises licence holder. Subcommittee will make the decision in private. You may wish to advise a time for all parties to return. I'm sure we will. The subcommittee will give its verbal decision to all parties, then copies of the determination of the review together with an appeal rights will be sent in the post to all parties. Is that clear for everybody? And if so, I think it's over to our legal officer, Mr. Paul Jakes. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everyone. This is an application for review which was received by the licensing authority on the 8th of December 2020 from West Yorkshire Police for the premises licence in respect of premises known as Zabka 2 Horse Fair Precinct in Pontefract. The application relates to two of the licensing objectives, namely crime and disorder and prevention of public nuisance. Within the application, the applicants are seeking a revocation of the premises licence. In support of their application, they've also served a bundle of evidence submitted in support, together with a further statement received yesterday, dated 29th of January from PCK. The review has been advertised and all responsible authorities notified, and representations in support were received from the licensing authority as responsible authority and also public health. At this review hearing, the subcommittee is required to consider the application and, upon hearing all representations, take such steps, if any, as are referred to in section 52 of the Licensing Act. And those steps are: A, to modify conditions on the premises licence; B, to exclude a licensable activity from the scope of the licence; C, to remove the designated premises supervisor from the licence; D, to suspend the licence for a period not exceeding 3 months; or E, to revoke the licence. That's the matter before you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Mr. Jakes. Before we ask the authorities to put their case forward, can I just ask people to, if they're reading or quoting from the bundle, can we just say which pages they are on, because then it makes life a little bit easier for everybody to follow that sequence. So over to the next responsible authorities, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's PCK from the licensing team. First question I was just going to ask is, have you all got sight of the bundle in front of you? So, as you stated there, I will be referring to pages of the bundle throughout the process.
Yes, I have the bundle.
Okay, I'll take that as everybody's sight of it. I've got one in front of them. West Yorkshire Police has submitted this review application of Zabka on the grounds of their repeated failure to promote 2 of the 4 licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance. Since February 2017, Zabka's premises licence has been reviewed on 3 separate occasions. All of these reviews have been in relation to its involvement in the sale of counterfeit cigarettes. Following the first hearing, which was brought by Paul Dean from Wakefield Council on the 22nd of May 2017, the subcommittee deemed it appropriate to issue the premises with a written warning that the licence holder must show full compliance with the authorisation and conditions of the licence. Now, that can be found on Pauline's application is pages 18 to 28 of the bundle, and the subcommittee's decision on that occasion is pages 29 to 32. If you like, I'll pause for you to refer to that, and if you can let me know when you're happy for me to continue.
Can I just ask, is everybody happy for the officer to continue, or do you need a little bit longer?
That's fine, you can continue.
Fine with me, Chair.
Yeah, me, Chair. Thank you.
Right, the officers can continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This was followed by several failed test purchases for illicit cigarettes during February and March 2019, and resulted in a second application to review the premises licence. This time it was brought by PC Warden from West Yorkshire Police, and that's pages 33 to 36, and that just outlines the application at that time.
Can people make sure the mute's off if they're not speaking, please, because we've got some strange noises.
Oh, sorry. Apologies, Chair. I was just trying to take instructions from my client whilst we were on mute, so I didn't realise. I apologise.
Thank you. Is everybody happy for the officers to continue?
Yes.
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The decision by the subcommittee on that occasion was to agree to impose conditions on the licence, which have been agreed in a consent order which was dated on the 7th of June 2019. This sought to remove the existing licence holder and all his staff from having any association with the premises in favour of the current owner and licence holder, Mr. Fazal Kader. That decision by the committee is page 40 of the booklet.
Everybody okay with that and let them continue?
Yes, that's fine.
Nick,
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Nick and Richard, are you okay with that?
Yes, fine, Chair.
Yeah, fine for me. Thanks.
Tighter restrictions on the premises licence in relation to its CCTV were also imposed, which stated that the CCTV cameras must cover the till area and have no blind spots. So in that condition is outlined. That's CCTV condition 1.2. That's page 41, which is highlighted for you. So Should be able to quickly refer to that one.
Can I just ask for you to read that out, because it's been highlighted, but the highlight on my papers is not very. It's more covering it up rather than highlighting it.
Yeah, also I'll try and read that. It says cameras shall be installed and located at the following locations: serving areas to cover the till area, the entire service counter, along with any other service point the public may be given access to. The entrance exits and cameras covering the shop floor in its entirety, eliminating any blind spots. It's quite clear from that condition what is required.
Thank you.
Today's hearing is the third such review and has been brought again by West Yorkshire Police following further failed test purchases and a trading standards-led operation on the 30th of November 2020 to enter and search the premises under trading standards powers. This operation revealed that the premises was still heavily involved in the storage and sale of illicit and counterfeit cigarettes. Pages 48 and 49 of the statement of the booklet is a statement from Julie Styland, who's a West Yorkshire Trading Standards test purchase operative who entered the shop and bought some illegal cigarettes on the 12th of November. And pages 52 and 54 of the statement from Paul Keir, also from West Yorkshire Trading Standards. He was a regulatory compliance officer who was present on the day, confirms that the seized cigarettes were counterfeit or indeed smuggled. I'll give you a few minutes to have a look at those statements.
Everybody okay to carry on? Richard and Nick?
Okay, Chair.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The seizure of tobacco from the shop on that day was significant, with almost 1,200 packets of illicit cigarettes being found. Pages 55 and to 60 show you the images that we took of those seized cigarettes before they were put into storage. As you can see from the photographs, there's a wide variety of illicit and counterfeit cigarettes there, some of which are counterfeit, some of which are smuggled into the country.
Thank you for that. I think we can all see those photographs quite clear. So if you'd like to move on.
Yeah, okay. So for almost 4 years now, Zabka has maintained its links with criminality in this way, and this is despite repeated and extensive interventions by the local authority and police. So it now appears that regardless of who the owner and licence holder is, the premises will be involved in the sale of counterfeit and smuggled tobacco products. Since the last review of the premises took place on the 12th of June 2019, we have found that none of the licence conditions which the subcommittee agreed to modify at that hearing have been adopted by Mr Kader. In fact, despite the new conditions being agreed in a consent order, we can see that those same activities which the consent order was designed to prevent, namely the sale of counterfeit and smuggled tobacco products from his shop, have continued regardless. Far from adopting and promoting his new licence conditions, Mr Kader has merely carried on the criminal activities of the previous owner, and as our evidence shows, sought to cover up those activities by failing to have the required CCTV coverage as imposed by the last licensing subcommittee. If you look at pages 44 to 46 of the booklet, that gives you the camera angles as they existed when we entered the premises on the 30th of November. I looked at the footage for the previous 5 weeks, and those camera angles don't change at all. So they're permanently fixed away from the till area, and they reveal several blind spots, especially through into the storeroom of the shop, which is where the illicit cigarettes were stored. So you weren't able to see on the footage the transfer of the illicit cigarettes to the till area, nor the sale of the cigarettes from the CCTV from the till area.
Thank you for that. Is that your summing up? Thank you.
No, I've got a little bit more to go yet.
Right.
It appears as though no effort has been made to adopt any of the remedial actions intended to allow this premises to maintain operating its licence to sell alcohol. This apparent lack of intent to follow the committee's findings shows a disregard for the licensing authority and a failure to promote the licensing objective of the prevention of crime and disorder. The sale of counterfeit tobacco to the public is also a serious breach of the prevention of public nuisance objective for the following reasons. The unknown content of the cigarettes as opposed to legitimate brands means they're more harmful to the public. The packaging does not carry health warnings to discourage users. They're much cheaper, which encourages greater use and makes them more attractive to a younger market. No tax is paid on these items, costing the government revenue, and their obvious association with organised criminality. What we've been able to show in our evidence is a clear intention to commit crime and to show a complete disregard for the safety of members of the public, thereby causing a public nuisance rather than preventing one. During the course of the police's investigation, a further serious breach of its licence was uncovered when it became clear that a male identified by police on the day of the operation was a failed asylum seeker. This male was subsequently seen regularly on the shop's CCTV footage after it was seized and reviewed. The Section 182 guidance of the Licensing Act identifies a serious offence and one which should be taken seriously at review hearings, and that is for employing a person who is disqualified from that work by reason of their immigration status in the UK. As can be seen from the CCTV exhibits in the bundle, we can show that this person, who we know to be Mr. Mahmoud Kareem, was present in the shop carrying out activities consistent with the shop worker for the full 5-week period for which footage was available. Pages 68 to 85 are stills from that CCTV which show his presence on a range of dates from that period, that 5-week period. And one particular date, I think, is the 1st of November. He's present from early in the morning till late in the evening. He's alone in the shop, and he's serving customers, stacking shelves, and to all intents and purposes working in the shop. Our inquiries with immigration services confirmed he had no permanent, no right to work in the UK due to his immigration status. And that document is on page 65 to 67. That's from the Home Office.
Thank you for that. Richard and Nick, are you okay with that for them to move on?
Fine with me, Chair.
Can I ask some questions to PCK, please?
Of course you can, Nick.
Right. Good morning, PCK. Just some confirmation. You've given us the pictures from pages, I'm looking at them all, pages 68 onwards to 77. You've confirmed that that is the gentleman who was working in the working in the premise. It is Zabka, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Zabka. That's the CCTV footage.
And also we've got pictures here of cameras. There's numerous cameras, 8 right down to 0102. There's 10 cameras with no pictures of anything from cameras 3, 4, 6, and 7. Can you just confirm that they are not cameras showing anything? There's no not showing the blind spots that you refer to.
Yeah, I can. Just bear with me.
What page are you on, Nick?
There's no page. It's I just want confirmation because there's only pictures from cameras 1, 2. There's pictures. There's not pictures of anything the cameras 3, 4, 6, and 7 are showing.
I'm just right. I'm just looking through the booklet. If you look at pages 44 through to 46,
yeah,
those are the entire camera angles available. Page 44 shows 2 cameras on the outside onto Horsefair. Page 45 are the 4 internal shop camera angles.
Yeah.
And then page 46 is another external angle. So there are only those 7 camera angles available.
That's fine, is that? And another question. In your report, you said in your statement, you stated that you asked Mr. Kadir if this gentleman was working in here, and he said he wasn't working in there. Is that correct?
Yes, he denied that he was working there, and in fact, on the day of the operation, he told us that he just dropped him off while he went to the bank.
Just one further question. On page 5 in your statement, number 8, can you just confirm what that's basically what you've stated there? I'll read it out for you. It is highly reported in national press and online that counterfeit tobacco found in the UK has been analysed, and such things as human excrement, insects, raw liver, and mould have been traced as being present. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's from a World Health Organization publication where they got that extract from.
Right. Thanks very much for that.
Right, we'll let the police carry on. Thank you for that, Nick.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kadir is also the owner and licence holder of Queen's Avenue Mini Market, which is another off-licence premises in Pontefract. Only a week ago today, West Yorkshire Police entered and searched the premises under licensing powers and seized another haul of counterfeit cigarettes and tobacco following a successful test purchase. This is now the matter of a police investigation, and a Section 51 review application has been submitted to the council. As a result of our inquiries, West Yorkshire Police has obtained proof through analysis of the samples by expert witnesses that the cigarettes being sold are counterfeit, which proves beyond doubt the criminal behaviour taking place at Zabka. Those statements are on pages 87 to 96. And they're from the anti-illicit teams of 2 major legitimate tobacco companies within the UK. We also have statements from both Wakefield Council Public Health Official Chris Wathen and Wakefield Council Licensing Enforcement Officer Paul Dean supporting this review application. And those statements are also contained within the bundle. Paul Dean also carried out a full compliance check on the premises on the 30th of November, which revealed an extensive list of failings in relation to their licence conditions. There's now a strong feeling among the police and council officials that Zabka will continue to be used as a vehicle for criminality, and the only way in which we can help to protect our communities from this damaging illicit trade is to revoke the licences of those premises which repeatedly fail in their obligation to promote the licensing objectives. And that's the end of my submission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Before we, well, I haven't got any questions at the moment because I'd like to hear most of the evidence. So before we ask it from, well, from my side of questions, can we go to the council's officers? Is it Paul Dean who submitted information? Have you got anything further to say, Mr. Dean?
I have, but I was going to wait until the police and the agent for Mr. Kildare had finished their bit. And I was going to refer to my statement and the evidence I found on the day as well.
That's fine then, Paul. We can wait for that.
Okay, thank you.
I've just got a couple of questions before we go on to for the applicant to give their response. Just going back to 2017, when the applicant took over these premises, what information or what would he have got from the council before he took over those premises regarding as to what he had to do and what his responsibilities were?
Chair, was that question put to me or the police?
It'll be to you, Paul. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I realised. Well, after the last hearing, we both, myself and the police, met with Victoria Cartmel and Mr. Kildare at the premises when the new licence had been agreed or the licence had been updated. And there was an expectancy that he would adhere to the conditions that have been submitted in the premises licence. After that, there's been no real contact with him other than the concerns that they were selling cigarettes again. So that's what started all this off again in November.
So just to clarify, Paul, in 2017, when he took the licence over, you were quite sure that the applicant understood exactly what his responsibilities were regarding the selling of cigarettes and alcohol, etc.
I believe it was 2019, the last hearing, Chair, when Mr. Kildare took over the licence. And it was my understanding that Victoria Cartmel, as a solicitor, she does training for all her customers. And she was going to train Mr. Kildare and his staff in relation to the new conditions of premises licence. Hopefully Victoria could confirm this for us.
Yes, I can confirm that I've done training on 2 occasions at this premises. One initially when the conditions were put in, and then back in November, just before Christmas. With the conditions, as far as I understand, we were compliant with. I didn't realise there was an issue with the angle of the CCTV. There is some coverage of behind the till, albeit I accept what the police are saying. I think the applicant would be happy to follow any advice as to the better positioning. We accept that it might not be as the police want it, but that was the only issue that we understood. And that only came about as a result of this inspection.
Thank you for that. Just another point. With the training, obviously this training is taken out. Do people, are they given a certificate or is a written submission, and then is that passed on to the licensing department to put on file to say that they know that training is taking place, or how does it work?
Well, what I do, Chair, is I leave a file. I've got a copy of, sorry, you're not on video. I'm going to say the appellant now is, not the appellant, sorry, the licence holder is currently showing the file to me via FaceTime. There's normally a hard copy file. I go through the training with the staff. What I've found is that different premises require different levels of training. If English isn't the first language, there's no point me going through all the intricacies of the licensing out verbatim. So it's better that I go through the documents and explain it in a way that they understand. For instance, like the licensing objectives, trying to explain, you can't just say public nuisance. You have to say, listen, it's about keeping the shop tidy outside and making sure there's no noise. So I go through the staff, I go through the training with them. and then they sign a training statement that says that they acknowledge that they're only allowed to sell alcohol within certain parameters, and if they don't comply with those parameters, then the authorisation is withdrawn and they're acting on their own. So I think the training, from my point of view, has been effective. I think the only issue we've had is this CCTV issue, which is down to the positioning of the cameras. So there was CCTV, but the cameras weren't positioned as they should have been. It may have been, once you listen to my submissions, that the cameras have been moved. As I understood it, the last time I was at the premises, the cameras were covering all the areas.
If you want to move on to your submissions, I've just got an issue from Paul that Paul, can you just see what you've put in the message box?
Yes, it's just the responsible authorities are in support of the police application for review. So the responsible authorities should make their representations prior to the licence holder responding to the review application.
That's what I asked, but I thought they wanted to do it afterwards. So, well, we'll go ahead with the responsible authority then, Paul, now to give their submissions, if that's okay. Is it over to you, Mr. Dean?
I believe so. I didn't know if you're talking to Mr. Jakes. We're both having the same first name. I just want to confirm that. So I'm ready for me then.
Yes, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Acting as responsible authority officer for the licence authority, I have decided to support the police's request to review the premises licence at Zabka to Horse Fair, Pontefract, where it again is of great concern that again the police training standards and the council's enforcement services have had to deal with reports of illicit sales of low-priced counterfeit cigarettes and tobacco at this shop, even though there is a new operator running the store, as we know today, Mr. Kader. The significant findings on the day, which have been highlighted by the police, again show that there is a continued problem at its mini market. I have produced a statement for the police and submitted in evidence the check document that I used on the day for the compliance check, which I'm going to be referring to in a few seconds. It is on pages 104 to 110 of the police's package. Could you have that ready, please? I will be reading extracts from my evidence.
Has everybody got that? Those pages available?
Yes, Chair. That's Nick.
Yeah. Richard, have you? Yeah.
Yes, Chair.
Yeah. Everybody else, thank you.
As I'm going to refer to the parts of the check doc, which is basically a look at the reverse of the check document. I've made a few notes about the staff and then the second page about the breaches that I found. And before I go into it any further, I could just clarify that I did this check in the absence of Mr. Kader, although I did try to contact him. So I'm going to continue now from where I left off, but will at some point start referring to these documents which I've submitted to the police. So as a licensed enforcement officer, I attempted to conduct a compliance check in relation to the off-licensed premises operating schedule, albeit with the member of staff in Mr. Kader's absence, as just indicated, which is similar to many other occasions conducting similar checks in similar circumstances when we do these kind of visits, when they're under scrutiny on the premises, where I find that it doesn't matter what conditions are agreed during the application process, but on this occasion with the premises licence at Zabka, during the last review here in 2019, where it's been noted Mr. Kader was put forward as a seemingly saviour of the store to keep it going because he had no connections with illicit cigarettes or other such sales. And as we noted, there was a new operating schedule set on the operating licence, schedule for the premises licence, which is imposed by the committee. So, in my opinion, and this is what you referred to earlier, Chair, is to expect so these conditions would now be adhered to because there's a new licence holder who's had training from Victoria Cartmel, and there would be an expectancy that going forward these new conditions would be met, especially after scrutiny that the premises licence came in over the last few years. And as noted by the police, today is the 4th time this premises has been reviewed. I will refer to my statement, which basically shows from page 2 of the statement, which I assume with page 105 of your pack, where I decided to do the compliance visit. And I'm going to read a few extracts from it, where I said, I was aware the schedule had a strong emphasis on staff training being in place. So approached and asked the member of staff, a lady called Ms. Magda, about conducting a compliance check. I noted that English wasn't Miss Magda's first language, but her communication with the authorities to date during the check when I've been there was reasonably good. So I asked if she was happy to help me with where she could with the check. Miss Magda told me she would help me where she could. As you can see, I then proceeded to conduct a check, but at the same time, being fully aware that it wasn't her first language. And so I chose not to ask as many questions I would normally do in relation to any premises license that I am checking concern the annexes 1, 2 and 3, if there's any conditions on 3, as would normally be if it's been imposed at a hearing for some reason. The first question I asked was around the CCTV, condition 1.4. Staff shall be trained in the operation of the CCTV systems to ensure rapid data retrieval and downloads of footage can be provided to police and local authority officers upon reasonable request in accordance with Data Protection Act. When I asked this question, can you show me the CCTV? Ms. Magda said she had never been formally trained in the use of the CCTV system and didn't know where the receiver unit was, which was hard to find, and it did take the officers and myself a while to find the receiver unit, which was on the wall above some fridges at the side of the shop. Or she explained that she just looked at the big screen, so she's never actually had any use just of the CCTV system, just knows it's there. And then I referred later into a statement about an instant refusals register, or instant and a refusals register, and again, she's never heard of it. I even had a look for it, couldn't find anything. And I referred to a bit later on to staff training. I know Victoria's mentioned, Ms. Cartmill's mentioned training, but when asked about the staff training records, which you would expect to find on site, there was no sign of it and she couldn't find it, and none of the officers at the premises could find it either. And the list goes on a little bit about the conditions that I found to be in breach. But unfortunately, again, I find this is a similar story in that no staff training appeared to have been undertaken as required, and there's a strong emphasis on staff training on this premises licence. And the majority of the operating schedules conditions set on the premises licence to promote the licence objectives were again not being adhered to as required under the Licensing Act by law. Hopefully you can see from my witness statement and submitted with West Yorkshire Police evidence pack that I did try to contact Mr. Kadair due to my concerns around conducting such a check with a member of staff. And I said, even though the operating schedule has a large emphasis on staff training being conducted, that on this occasion I only chose, in my opinion, to ask the questions I thought were relevant that she may be able to ask. And I would have expected her to be able to help me with this, but unfortunately, I couldn't get any relevant answers or confirmation that these conditions were in place or being adhered to. Miss Magda did advise me that she had some form of training had been conducted when she first started employment, but from my findings, I found it very hard to believe that she had any training whatsoever. The evidence from the attempted compliance check showed to me that there had been very little training completed as required, if any. Mr. Kadair eventually turned up on the day, and I asked him about the lack of compliance on the compliance check when he attended the shop. I was slightly taken aback because he was not only in complete denial that he had anything to do with the counterfeit and or illegal cigarettes found on the premises by the police and training standards, but also stated that he would have to speak to his member of staff why she didn't understand the basic questions around a compliance check being conducted, which I understood to be questions like, have you been trained? Can you use a CCTV? Can you produce a training booklet or produce or prove you've been trained? can you show me an incident register? Can you show me a refusal register? She just didn't know anything, and there would be an expectancy that, as Ms. Cartmell said, if she signed up to saying that she's been trained, she would know exactly these questions that's been asked of her. So my concern is that the level of compliance should need no prompting from Mr. Kildare. If the train had been untaken as the premises licence's operating schedule is set out, the member of staff, Ms. Magda, would have been more than helpful with my inquiries. But unfortunately, she wasn't helpful because she, in my opinion, she had no formal training. This is the main outline of my submission today, but I would also like to bring to the committee's attention that the breaches identified today have not gone ignored and are still under investigation and being considered in relation to the formal action being taken. Unfortunately, the pandemic has taken a bit of a backstep with that, and it's a bit hard to actually bring things together as far as interviews and such like. But Mr. Kildare could be subject to formal procedures going forward in the Magistrates' Court at a later date. I haven't got much more to add today other than my findings on the day show a complete failure to promote not only the premises licence but the licensing objectives as well. And in quick summary, as stated in my initial support to West Yorkshire Police's request to review the premises licence at Zabka, which Mr. Kildare is the recognised premises licence holder, it is clear that Mr. Fazal Kildare is responsible not only for the requirement to operate lawfully under the Licensing Act, but he's also has to take full responsibility for the items sold and found in his shop, which he has clear control of. There is no question that illegal cigarettes and tobacco sales have continued to be made available from this shop, even after promises were made at the last hearing and the failures to comply with the licensing law. The illegal activities demonstrate that Mr. Kildare has shown little to no regard to promote any of the licensing objectives, especially his considerable disregard to promote the prevention of crime and disorder objective, most notably with the illegal sale and storage of cigarettes being made available to the public at discounted prices. This is the end of my submission today. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Paul. Before we ask any questions, and I'll just get a bit of steering from our legal, would it be appropriate now whether public health have anything to say before we go to the applicant, Paul?
Yes, if Chris Wathen's got anything to add to, obviously, his statements within the model, but if he's got anything further to add, now is the opportunity.
Okay, yeah, I'd just like to summarise a few things within my statement, if that's okay. Unfortunately, I don't have the bundle, so I can't see what page or let you know what page it's on. So if anybody can just highlight what pages it's on, then I'll proceed from there.
Yeah, PCK, it is page 98 to 99, 98 to 101 of the book, 98 to 101. The main body of the statement is 98 to 99 now.
Thank you very much, PCK. So I'm Chris Wathen, I'm part of the local authority responsibility in public health. And today is just to talk through the submission and support application for the review of Zabka and the licence holder. As pointed out, you could do my statements there for to read, but I just wanted to highlight some key points from a public health perspective. So we know smoking kills. About half of all lifelong smokers will die prematurely. There are large inequalities in smoking prevalences, and they're higher in deprived areas, and particularly among vulnerable groups, those that are most within our society and our communities. Evidence suggests that most people who start smoking start and get addicted to nicotine from a very young age, and price and affordability is a key factor in that. It costs the economy in terms of the treatment of tobacco-related illness, in terms of heart disease, lung disease, cardiac problems, etc. So there's a massive spend on treating smoking-related harm. Obviously, public health has a major investment around trying to get people to stop smoking and the uptake of young people and people to stop smoking. We invest heavily in a stop smoking service. We invest heavily in West Yorkshire Trading Standards and our neighbouring authorities around tackling illicit tobacco and the Keep It Out campaign. And I think it suggests that, I think within the report, that the packet of Richmond was bought for £5. I think the average cost now, obviously they're different brands, but the average cost today is around about £10.80 for a pack of 20. So it would suggest that, you know, nearly half price is what's been sold within Zabka. So I think, just in summary, the trade of illicit tobacco makes it easy for children to start smoking and get hooked from a young age, and harder for adults to stop. I think, obviously, this illicit tobacco within our communities makes it easy to bypass the law of age of sales to young people, and obviously has strong links to criminal behaviour. And that's it. Are there any questions, Chair?
Thank you for that, Chris. I think you've summed it up well. I have no questions for you, Chris. I don't know whether my other members have, but I know Councillor Farmer's got a question for Paul Dean. So if you want your question now, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, Paul. Just a quick one, Paul. You stated you did your statement on the 11th of January, but you visited the premise on the 30th of November. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. When you visited the premise to do this inspection, were you aware that Mohammed Mahum Kareem was an illegal immigrant?
No, he came out as PCK has mentioned his version of why it was there, and I know that Mr. Kadir said that he dropped him off, but I believe PCK will confirm that the guy said he'd just come from Leeds on the train and he'd just dropping in to see his friend. We'd no idea that he was illegal until the police's inquiries later on.
Right, thanks. When you did your inspection, did you ask Mrs. Magda if she worked with anybody in that premise or?
No, it was quite hectic because there was about 10 of us in there that day. I just tried to keep the questions to a minimum.
I just wanted
was getting a bit upset, was a lady as well. So
I just wanted to know if you'd asked if she'd actually worked with Mr. Kareem in there.
No. He was kept out of the way, the back of the shop. He actually, at one point, he tried to walk away from the shop when we first arrived, and he was brought back by the police. He was trying to leave it completely.
Sorry, that's Mr. Kareem, is it?
Yes.
Right, fine. So he was actually on the premises when you interviewed?
When we first pulled up, I entered from the back of the premises to the rear car park, and as I was pulling up, he must have seen the police entering with a CCTV camera on the main screen and exited back of the premises. I drew this to the police's attention at the top of the where the flats are, if you know the layout of the Zabka, and they brought him back because he'd obviously come from the premises.
Right, that's fine. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Okay with that, Nick? Yeah.
Yeah, fine. Thanks, Chair.
Right, we'll move on now to the applicant for them to give their response. So if you'd like to go ahead, Victoria.
Chair, could I make a request? There's quite a few times I've got my client on FaceTime so I can get instructions as I go along, and there's a few times I've had to put my hand up because I couldn't listen to the hearing and speak to him. Could I please ask for 10 minutes now just so I can speak to him before I start addressing the committee? I don't want to go into the hearing without taking full instructions.
Yeah, we can have a 10-minute comfort break if everybody's okay with that. I think it's appropriate given the time.
I'm grateful, sir. Thank you.
So we'll come back in 10 minutes, yeah?
Smashing. Thank you.
Gregor, does the live feed go off for 10 minutes now or not?
Are you ready for me, Chair?
If you want to go ahead with your submission, Victoria.
Thank you. Right, Chair. The licence holder took over this premises in 2019, following previous reviews of the premises. We accept that there have been issues at the premises prior to my client taking over. In 2019, when he took over the premises, I went and I conducted staff training. At that time, Magda didn't work at the premises, so she wasn't trained by me at that time. The training book that I left on that date was, my client says, behind the counter and was at the premises on the day in question when the inspection took place. I had a look at the training records. Magda was trained on the 29th of June 2020 by my client. On the day in question, when the officers spoke to her, my client says that she was visibly distressed and she was shaking, and as a result of that, the nerves, that might have been why she answered the questions in the manner that she did. But he maintains that she was trained, and according to the records, it was on the 29th of the 6th, 2020. I conducted the training that I did at the premises in 2019 when this issue was first resolved. I have been back to the premises, I think it was on the 18th of December, just before Christmas, and I conducted the training on that day, and on that day Magda was present and she was trained by me. Now, in respect of the issues at the premises, I think we can split them into probably three separate areas. We have an issue with the training. Now, the training, my client is adamant that his staff have been trained. He paid a significant amount of money in 2019 and again last year to have that training file put in place. He wasn't at the premises on that day, and had he attended the premises, he would have been able to instantly produce the book for the enforcement officers. Now, there are two dates that relate to cigarettes. The first date was the 12th of November, when a test purchase was conducted. Now, on that day, Mr. Cader has spoken to the member of staff, and there were no cigarettes on the premises that day. The member of staff had bought some cigarettes for himself. He didn't like them, and he says he had them in his pocket that day. Someone came in asking for cigarettes, and he did sell them for £5. He said at the time he didn't want them to think he was stealing from the premises, so the money was placed in the till and later took out of the till. That member of staff is no longer at the premises. The issue of Mohammed is actually the nephew of the licence holder. He has been getting a lot of moral support from Mr. Cader, and he has also started a relationship with Magda. When the police came into the premises, I think they were under the impression that it was Mr. Cader who was in a relationship with Magda, but it's not. It is Mohammed, which is why he was hanging around the premises. My client in November had an issue where his baby was very sick and was not at the premises as much as he should have been. So Magda was doing the bulk of the shift work for him. Now, I think the issue has been that Magda has allowed Mohammed to be at the premises with her while she was working, and apparently, someone visited the premises. It's somebody who has another shop that was shutting it down and brought in some tobacco to sell to Mr. Cader. Mr. Cader wasn't there at the time, so the staff said, well, leave it here. I don't think he wants it, but I'll let you have a look at it later. And then the tobacco was left in the storeroom. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't in a concealment. It wasn't behind the till. It was literally all together in the storeroom. And that was literally for Mr. Cader to look at. And once he'd looked at it, he would have said no, because he would have realised that there was problems with the tobacco. At no point was any of that haul of tobacco sold. And my client maintains that he's had nothing to do with illegal cigarettes. He has no previous convictions. He's had no problem at any premises. However, he did take on this premises that does have a history. He accepts that he should have been around more in the time running up to Christmas. However, due to illness of a child, he was not there as much as he should have been. And he accepts that that is his downfall. He was not aware at any point that Mohammed was helping out in the shop and shouldn't have been. He made it very clear to him that, that obviously he can't work, he doesn't have a work permit, and not to be conducting any activities within that shop. The CCTV issue, the CCTV was, it was pointed on the till. I think there was a pay points thing on the other till that they'd been using all the time. Following the pay point, I think, was it removed? I'll have to check that with my client. The CCTV was, I don't know if it was adjusted. I will check with my clients. I don't know. Mr. Kadir, could you please advise us on the point of the CCTV?
Yes, I had a good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry being a headache for everybody. I'm really sorry again. Yes, CCTV camera been put in about May in 2019 by guy is Asian guy. I can prove it to you. And it was a point to the till, which is a pay point till was there, which is very important. You can do anything wrong with the pay point. That's why I did put it on appeal. But in 2020, in February, I believe, I took the pay point off because there was a lots of headache and I was losing lots of money and everything. And since then, I never touched the camera. I never used the camera. I never touched it. And then how it was fitting in, that's how I left it like this. But when they say it is not pointed at the till, yes, it was pointed at the till, and you can see the back of my show, all the drink and everything, who's coming to buy, who's selling. Thank you.
I don't know, Mr. Kadir, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the committee now, whilst you're on?
Yes, if it's possible, yes. Mr. Mohammed Mahmoud, he's my nephew, and I will help him every way I could because I knew how he's circumcised. Yeah, and I bring him to my house. I helped him and give him a food, give him a clothes. He never been worked in my shop as an employee, as a staff. But one thing I found out after everything when it's been done, he's got a relationship with Magda, which is he's going to the shop. If his girlfriend sitting there, probably he fill up a shelf, Christmas, do this, clean it up for his girlfriend. Okay, but I should done being more careful with this. I shouldn't let him this. Yes, that is my fault. Second thing, the policeman or councilman or license authority, I don't know who to speak to the Magda. They told Magda, you are Mr. Kadei's girlfriend and you have to tell us everything about Mr. Kadei. And if you not tell us everything about him, you will go to prison, which is for a young lady like that is really stressful. And my car was parked behind the premises, and I got a few phone calls, which I was in the bank in that day, and I had to tell the lady I have to go. When I come back to the shop, 3 policemen come to me, right towards of me. They asked me for my car key. I say, what's going on? He say, you have to give us a car key to look for it. And when I give them my car key, they looked at my car, is nothing there. And when I walked in and Magda was crying, I say, what's going on, Magda? They checked my flat and they told me I'm going to prison. They told me this car is my name and this car in my address. I said, that is not all true. The car is in my name, in my address, and this is my car. And don't be stressed. And in that time, I believe I did ask one police officer, and I asked Mr. Dean, Paul Dean, I said, please, why did you stress her? She's not my girlfriend. I got 4 kids, you know, and I don't know what's going on. And when he asked me, are you responsible for the shop? I said, of course, that is my shop, and I am responsible for every single bit of the shop. I not got nothing to hide. I never been involved with any problem. I got 4 kids. I've been working very good, and I never remember I done anything wrong. And right this second, yes, you all right. I should be more careful. My trust to people, my belief to people is making me be more careful. I should be more see what I can do, what to make my life a little bit better. But I would promise from now on, I wouldn't be like this person what before. Now, straight away, I told Mr. Muhammad, I say, you are my nephew. I love you a bit. It's a family, but I don't want you to come here. And please don't come back here because you should tell me what you do, how you are. You put me in trouble. I never talked to him since then. And his mom called me. I said, no, I never want him back, and I don't want to talk to him anymore. And about Magda is really upset. It takes about 2-3 weeks to come back to the life what she have, because the police go to her flat and check all the clothing and all that they're looking for. I don't know what they're looking for. It caused me bigger problem. But anyway, it's all been sorted, all been good. And I did train Magda on 29/06/2020 by myself, which is Victoria Carmel to give me a book, and I did go through it, and I did told them one thing I don't like to give it to staff to delete videos on my CCTV camera. The rest of it is if you have a look at it underneath the field, the mouse there, and it's not got any passwords. No password. You can anybody go there to have a look at the CCTV camera. And if it's so necessary, the CCTV camera to have a look, when I come back, why you didn't ask me to show you a CCTV camera, and I would show you. And about Mr. Muhammad, they say they've been working there. They never paid him. He never been staff. He never been employed. And Mr. Muhammad Mahmoud is not been in premises that day. He was on the road behind the car park of the shop, which is about 100 yards far from the premises, which is going to Magda's flat. But the policeman recognized him. I don't know how. He said, please come with me. We're going to your uncle's shop. When a policeman told Muhammad that. That's why Muhammad coming back to Moses. And thank you very much for this one.
I don't know if at this point, Chair, whether it would be better to ask questions of my clients, just dealing with the issues that have just been mentioned.
Well, yes, we will be asking questions of your client, and I'm sure I have some questions, and I'm sure my colleagues have. So with that, I'll ask a number of questions to your client, please.
Okay.
My first question is regarding training for the lady who works behind the counter. She'd worked there for a while, she'd had some training. Can you please tell me why? I understand she might have been nervous. Can you please tell me why she did not know where the refusal register was kept? It's quite a simple task for a register to put names, etc. in, and to know where it is in case you need to put something down instantly. So can you please tell me why she didn't know where that was? Because I find it really I'm really can't get a grip of why, if she's had the training, why she doesn't know where a simple book is to put names in.
Mr. Kadir?
Yeah, it's for her is really difficult because nobody did come to the shop and ask for that, and the book is there. The policeman and the licensing authority, when they come looking for the shop, I am pretty sure 100% they did go through this book, because this book is a not small book and it's been writing in it by Victoria Camel. It's a very wide, big book. But what they did not done, they avoid that to have a look at it, because there's quite a few pages, about 300 pages in them. And I don't know why she didn't give it to them and never asked them, and nobody asked Magda to give it to her. And if you did see the Magda's face, the stressful and crying for her, because when an officer told her, if you not tell the truth, you will be in prison. Be honest with you, if you tell me that, I would be stressed and cry.
Mr. Kadir really didn't answer my question, because the lady didn't know where it was, and I find it incredible that she didn't know where that book was, and that book is as important as knowing where the till is. It should be easily accessible. Moving on, my second question is, why did you not have a Challenge 25 sign visible in your shop so it could be visible to all people walking in?
I have on the door, in the front door, when you open the door, you coming in, I have a Challenge 25 there. Actually on the door, right on the door, front door when you open it. And I can take a picture now and send it to you right now. Still got that picture over there. And also I got a picture of the illegal tobacco has to be over 18, blah, blah, blah. It's writing on behind my field on the door. It is still writing that, which you can show you on your camera, on your book right now, the page 75, 74.
74, 75.
Just before, the next question is, you said that you'd run out of cigarettes, which I find, I've never known an off license or a shop run out of cigarettes or alcohol. But you said you run out of cigarettes, so can you tell me how far your other shop is away from Zabika? Because obviously you'd have had cigarettes at your other shop.
Other shop is a two persons working for me. I not go there much, be honest, and that is absolutely zero, nothing to do with me. And the guy will admit it, and he told officers this is nothing to do with me, and this is his.
All right.
And
all right.
On 28th of February, that's the last day.
Mr. Kader, just let the chair speak, please. Sorry, Chair.
Thank you. My next question is, you say that these cigarettes brought in and left to see whether you wanted to purchase them by your staff. So did your staff take a name or contact details of that person? And if so, has that name or that contact person been given to the police for them to interview?
No, the only things that they told me is somebody come here, is named Martin, and he's a Polish. That's all, nothing else. And they told them come back in 1 hour, and my uncle coming back, then he will talk to you. But they knew I do not want him. They knew it's nothing to do with them, and he had the shop. Either it's a Castleford or Wakefield, because since then the cigarette has been taken. I never see him again.
But Mr. Kadir, why would somebody leave so many packets of cigarettes of such a value and not give any contact name or contact number? Because obviously they could come back and say, your staff could say they've never left them here and they could lose everything. So I find that a little bit bizarre. And my last question at the moment is, your staff sold a packet of these cigarettes for £5. Now, I can go probably anywhere in the country, and like the personnel officer said from public health, they know a packet of cigarettes is £10 or more. So why would somebody charge £5 for cigarettes? Or are you selling everything else at 50% discount like alcohol? Because obviously, I just find that difficult to understand that you'd sell a packet of cigarettes with the taxes and everything that should be £10 or more for £5.
Right, Mr. Kadir?
Sorry, Chair, that person, he sold that cigarette is not my staff, is my nephew. Okay, and he bought a cigarette for himself, and this is happening. This is what I know after what this is happening, because I didn't know anything about it. I told them, I say, why did you sell the cigarette in my shop? He said, I didn't. I bought two. I opened one of them. It's a bit strong, and I didn't like it. And somebody came in, asked me for a cheaper cigarette, and I give them that. Regularly, people come to my shop to ask for cheaper cigarettes because the proof the owner or because the area or whatever it is, but I always refuse it. But in that time, when the person come and I wasn't there and Magda wasn't there, that's the only chance he had. That is not being sold cigarette in my shop. That what I'm a bit aware.
Right, thank you for that at the moment, Mr. Kadir. My colleague, Councillor Farm, would like to ask you a number of questions, I presume. Over to you, Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Kadir. Good afternoon. Yeah, just as regards the selling of illicit cigarettes, the police were informed in September 2020 that they believed that illicit cigarettes were being sold from there. The 12th of November 2020 it was confirmed. The 30th of November it was confirmed. You've also got another premise that the police have found that illicit cigarettes have been sold only last Tuesday. I just wondered how you could explain all that.
Okay. The cigarette being people with a camera coming in and bought a one pack of cigarette only one time in 12th of November 2020. There's only one time in Zabka shop being sold, which is by hand of Mr. Muhammad Mahmoud, which is my nephew, and he's not staff. He shouldn't be there. He shouldn't work there. Okay, that's the one thing. And the second thing's about the Queen Avenue mini market. I left that shop for Mr. Hammond and Miss Anna Olivaska, which is this two was running the shop for me. And Mr. Hammond, I did ask him when they called me, I did go to the shop and I did ask Mr. Hammond, who's the cigarette? And he said, I'm really sorry, I did bring it to make a few penny. I said, well, you will go to court and you will sort it out. It's your problem because that is not my problem. And I did told them they have only 3 weeks to move out the premises because I will take it over again. They're not allowed to work anymore for me, which is on 28th of February this month. They are last day to go out in this premises.
Thank you. Just a couple of more questions. Just of interest, Mr. Kidd, what are the 4 licensing objectives?
Say again, sorry.
What are the 4 licensing objectives?
What?
I'll give you one: crime and disorder.
Yeah, not selling a cigarette, not selling alcohol and a cigarette to younger people, and not sell things alcohol to drunk people. You have to be careful with a public disorder and all that. I did go through that stuff, but I'm really sorry. Sometimes is my English not that great to explain it properly. But if I work in my shops, I had no problem, and I prove for that to you. And since April.
No, just Mr. Kadir, can you just tell me what the 4 objectives are?
Is that I'll
give you the 2 that you've been accused of not adhering to. That's the crime and disorder and prevention of public nuisance. They're the 2 that you're accused of not. What's the other 2? Bearing in mind you're the licence holder, these are massively important. That you should know what they are.
Yeah, is that children? Yeah, you have to be careful with the children.
Yeah.
And also the children and legal cigarette and CCTV.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Can I ask just another question? Who's the landlord of the or the owner of the premise at
which promises?
the premise that you're on now? Yeah. Who owns the premise?
The guy, he's named Tom.
His name's Tom.
Yeah.
Just Tom.
Yeah, but he's running
Right.
by company. I got a paperwork.
Yeah. You don't know his second name, they're just Tom. Okay.
Yeah, I can find out. Just give me a second. I got in my message.
No, it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you for answering the questions.
No problem.
Councillor Taylor, have you any questions?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, just a couple. Do you actually, Mr. Kadir, do you take any notice at all about visits from the police and licensing authorities? Do you actually take any notice of them? Because it seems to me that I find it very hard to believe a lot of what's being said. I find it hard to believe that people are selling cigarettes through your shop that you have all total control over and you know nothing about it. I find it so hard to believe.
You are right. It's my failure is to trust people and being a little bit back. I should be more careful on that. Yes, you are right. I will totally agree with that.
And I've got another question.
Yeah.
At the bottom line, could you give me just one good reason why we should not revoke your licence?
I will promise for everything else. I will promise you will never see anything like that, and I will make a proper training and the stuff there. I will take all that stuff out apart Magda, because I will train Magda very, very properly with the Victoria. I did go through and everything. And if anything like that happen, I will promise you, anything like that happen, if you see anything like any problem by definitely not cigarette or any other problem, you can take license away straight away. And I'm really, really apologize for that, and I'm really, really sorry for that. And I would not do that again. I will not leave my shop at all. And in the same day, it is really hard this moment, to make money. And I got 4 kids, and I would be really pleased. I would be really, really helped if you can this time give me a last chance, because I never been any problem like that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Have you finished? Is that it, Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah.
Yeah. I just before you come in, Nick, I have just one question for Mr. Kadir. Obviously, you've got a family, Mr. Kadir, and you know what's being said from our public health regarding illegal cigarettes. So, do you not think you have a responsibility to make sure that you only sell cigarettes can be harmful enough that are made legal? So, do you not believe you have a responsibility to make sure anything like that coming through your doorstep is not even left behind the back of the shop for waiting for your decision? Because obviously it affects children and people's health tremendously.
Like I said, yes, this has to be. I would promise that will never this happen again. And cross my heart, I never knew about this. Since April 2019, I've been really good. I tried really, really hard, but this last couple of months was really hard for me, because between me and my girlfriend and my kids, I had lots of problems. That's why I've been a little bit go off of the shop. But I will promise you, never things like that happen. And I would accept anything you say. I'm really sorry.
Thank you. You go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just a question, Mr. Kadir, about when you took the licence over. One of the conditions was that you had enhanced CCTV. Did you position the cameras at suitable positions that you thought were all right?
Mr. Nick, that in page 73, yeah, page 73. If you have a look at it, That's a CCTV camera for my counter. The first set of the chewing gum wasn't there. There was a paper-inch till, which I was using. Okay.
No, sorry, Mr. Kadir. Did you sort out the cameras, the position of the cameras? Yes or no?
I never touched it. I never touched it.
You never set up the cameras?
Yeah, I just set a camera in May 2019, and since then, I never touched it.
I just find out, because if I was opening up a business and I had enhanced CCTV, the one thing that I would cover is the till. That would be the most important thing for me, to cover the till, because if I'm employing people, then obviously you've got to be a little bit wary of people taking money. So that would be the first thing that I would make sure that was covered. And I just find it bizarre. The fact is that you've got all these CCTV cameras, and one of the main things you're not covering is the till.
You are right, Nick. That's what I said. First law of chewing gum in page 73. First law of chewing gum wasn't chewing gum, was a till. A till was there. We shown everything. And then, be honest, Magda did work for a long time for me, and I totally trust. But the paper in till was there. That's why camera is there.
Yeah. Okay, fine. That's fine. Thank you. Just one last question. Did you employ Magda?
Yes.
So you paid your national insurance, your tax, everything like that, did you?
Yes, I got my pay slips, in my email right now. I can send it.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Believe you. Thank you, Chair.
I got 2 employers.
Thank you, Chair.
I just one more question for Kadir. Earlier he said he didn't own nothing to do with the other shop. The outlined in the document we received yesterday, the additional paperwork. And my question was to Mr. Kadir, if he run out of cigarettes at his shop, why did he not go and get some from his other shop? Because obviously, I cannot believe that you would leave one shop empty with no cigarettes, legal cigarettes, and have them at your other shop, a good supply of them, and not go and collect some and fill your shop up. But obviously, I'd just like a bit of an explanation from you, Mr. Kadir, as to why you wouldn't do that, and why officers came in and they were given counterfeit cigarettes.
The day that Zabka been passed, I did go, not that same day, but a couple of days after that, I did go to Queen Avenue and I did speak to my staff, and I speak to Mr. Hammond. I said, Mr. Hammond, anything like that, please, you have to tell me right now. And he did deny it. He didn't say one word to me, and he said nothing like that. And to be honest, I did try to have a look at the promises, but I didn't look at the toilet, to be honest. Who's gonna think look at the toilet? I didn't. I looked at all the beers, all the shelving, and the counter was nothing. There's nothing like that. I couldn't find anything. And I did speak to him and he did deny it. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Mr. Jakes, have you any questions or want any information to clarify anything?
No, Chair, nothing to ask.
Right. Have the police or our council officers anything more to add, or if not, then we can ask Victoria if you've got anything. Then if not, we'll adjourn and discuss.
PCK, I've just got something to clarify. If I can just draw your attention to page 45 of my booklet. I'll just give you a minute to get there. Okay, the keypad on the lower right hand side gives a date when that screenshot was taken, which is the 12th of November. The top left hand screen shows a male serving behind the till. Now that is somebody other than Mr. Kadir's nephew, and if you recall Julie Staniland's statement, the test purchase operative, she entered the shop on the 12th, the same date. I can say to you from viewing that CCTV from that day that the male behind the counter there was in the shop all that day, and it was him that sold the illicit cigarettes to the TP operative, and not Mr. Kadir's nephew, as he stated. That money went into the till, which shows that not only is he selling illicit cigarettes, but he's laundering the proceeds through his shop, which he's fully aware of.
Thank you for that. Have you anything to say about that, Mr. Kadir?
I have no clue about it. That was a friend of mine. He just come for one day and he's gone. I don't believe it's him, but if you say so, yeah, that's right. I don't have anything to say about it. No, absolutely not. He's not working for me. He's just a friend. And when I speak to Muhammad, he told me that. I don't know. I don't know if they lied to me, or I really don't know, Judge. I don't know.
Okay, I've just got one other point which I'd just like to highlight, if I could.
Just one moment. It just seems to me, Mr. Kadir, by what you just said, that you don't seem to have much responsibility or knowledge of what's going on in the premises that you're responsible for, and I find that really, really bizarre. Thank you.
Which I did say I've been back off a little bit on November and December. That's right. It's my fault. I've been go out of it because my girlfriend and my kids had a problem and I was busy with them. Yeah, that's right. I was begging to anyone help me out, which is right. It is my fault. Whatever you say is right. Only thing I can say, just apologize and never happen again.
Right, Councillor, thank you, Mr. Kadir. Councillor Taylor, you've got a question?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Mr. Kadir, you were at pains to tell us that you're a family man. You've got a family, a small family, and care. We've heard about the effects of these illegal cigarettes and the tobacco, and the effects it has on people's lives and everything else. Do you actually take any of this on board? Thinking that your own children are going to grow up surrounded by these cigarettes?
Of course I am, because I love my kids and I have 4 kids and I love them very much. I do anything for them. And one thing I guarantee you, I know it's a bit sound not good, but I will never do this with anybody. Definitely not younger. If you check my refusal book, you can see how many younger I've refused.
I think, sorry to interrupt, I think, Chair, my client maintains he knows the dangers of illegal cigarettes, and that's why he would never be involved with them, and that's why he's no previous convictions. He maintains that the cigarettes are nothing to do with him, and that's why he's not concerned about the dangers to his children, because he accepts them and, wouldn't do that.
Thank you for that, Victoria. I think the police wanted to just raise a point that if nobody has any other questions, we'll let you summarise, Victoria.
Yeah, PCK again. I just wanted to put on record that the conversation with Magda in relation to sending her to prison absolutely did not happen from my point of view and from the point of view of any of my colleagues who were there. The whole incident was captured on Body 1 CCTV by the officers present, and they were professional and courteous at all times. So that absolutely did not happen from my point of view. And that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you for that. Right, Paul Dean, if you'd like to raise a few points you want.
Yeah, it's not a summing up. It's just a few points that were mentioned in the licence holders part. When I mentioned about the booklet for training, if Mr. Kadir knew where the booklet was, my question would be, why didn't he present it to me when I talked to him about it? I had an extensive look behind the counter. I know what these training booklets look like. I have seen them before. It wasn't there. And lastly, the point about the Challenge 25, I had plenty of time to look around the premises, including the front door. No such posters were being displayed. That is fact. Anything that's been put there since, I have no control of. That's all it is. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Paul. So With that, if nobody's any more questions, we'll go to the responsible authorities officers to sum up first, and then Victoria. Thank you. Will that be the police then, Paul, that are going to sum up first?
Yeah, I mean, the responsible authorities in support may not have anything to add. It may just be that you want to see if the police have anything to add in a summing up, and then Victoria Cartmel on behalf of the licence holder.
Thanks for that, Paul. So have the police anything else to add, or add a summary, or can we move on to
so much in summing up? I think I've said just about everything that I need to say, but then I'll just refer to a point that Miss Cartmel made when she referred to the CCTV condition as and the position of the cameras might not be what the police wanted. I think she quoted, it's not what the police want. They were a conditional requirement that they had to be pointing at the till, and they had to be pointing at blind spots within the shop, and that clearly did not take place for reasons that I think we've shown, that the shop was storing and selling counterfeit products to members of the Pontefract community, and that's all I'll say in summing up. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So over to you, Victoria.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I was just checking I was unmuted. Sorry, I was going to call you Your Worships. Councillors, I can see when you received this report initially, it would have been shocking to you because there's a lot of information, historical information contained within the report. What I'd ask you to do so that my client can have a fair hearing is look at the issues at the premises since his involvement. Now, I can't stress this enough. This is a man of good character. He has no convictions. He has no previous issues with cigarettes whatsoever. And that is confirmed by the fact the police allowed him to go onto the licence. Now, since he took over the premises, the first thing he did when he took over the premises is he paid for me to go and train his staff. That training was conducted and there were no issues at the premises. Magda was trained, that was in June of last year, and we accept that that training was conducted by the licence holder and not myself, so wouldn't be as in-depth as training that I would have carried out. So we've had 2019, we take over the premises, yeah, a guy with good character, no issues whatsoever. The first issue that arises is the issue on November the 12th. My client has explained what happened on that date, and at the end of the day, on that date, it was a test purchase, it was a single packet of cigarettes, and my client was not in the premises that day. That's confirmed by the CCTV. The CCTV would show any involvement from my client, even though there are blind spots. They'd be able to see if he was in the premises on certain days. And that's where my client accepts is his downfall. He's took over this premises, he's done everything right. And then this issue arises with the cigarettes during a period that, let's face it, we're all struggling with. It's COVID, and plus the knock-on effects of that, especially when we look at family life, it's having a massive impact on everybody. So yes, he admits he took his eye off the ball. That's apparent by what happened. He did have family issues, and the issue with the cigarettes in November, we accept is completely unacceptable. There's no evidence whatsoever that those cigarettes were being sold or had been sold. The only sale of cigarettes from the premises is that sale on the 12th. Mr. Kadir has conducted further staff training, so Magda has now been trained by me. I attended the premises before Christmas and went through it with her personally, and she is now say au fait with the licensing objectives. I think the problem is, it's like when we asked Mr. Kadir before, you ask people whose first language what the licensing objectives are, and they try and explain them in the way, like one client would say, instead of public safety, save the public. And I think because, especially when I do the training, they might not understand a certain phrase. So I will try and explain it in a different way. So I'll say public nuisance, but I'll say that public nuisance means, you know, noise issues, smells, making sure litter's tidy. So that's how they understand the licensing objectives, rather than learning the phrases parrot fashion. Anybody could teach a client the phrases to trot out at a hearing, but it's more that they understand what the licensing objectives are trying to do. So we've got premises that I've had no issues for a period well over 12 months, nearly 2 years. And then during November and December, Mr. Kadir's nephew was at the premises and he's took his eye off the ball, which has led to these issues. In my submission, the issues have been resolved. I accept that because of the history to the premises, this isn't an issue where a warning would be suitable. When you look at the licensing objectives, and they are permissive, and the whole ethos behind the Licensing Act is to give people a chance. Well, what I'd say to you is this is Mr. Kadir's first chance. He's had premises before. Yes, there are issues, but straight away when the issues were brought to him, he resolved them. He brought me in to do the training. He's fallen out with his nephew. I accept it looks bad, but when you break the issues down, we are really down to the issues in November. And those are the only issues in my submission. Mr. Kadir understands now that this is his first rap of the knuckles. He's never been in trouble before. So this to him has been a massive wake-up call. And this is a sign that he has to tighten his procedures and make sure that if he has a premises, he is in full control of that premises. I'd ask you to bear in mind the current circumstances. He does have 4 children. This is his income that would support his children. And I'd ask you to consider, rather than a revocation, a suspension. Now, a significant suspension would mark as a final warning to him. It's if the premises received a suspension, then that suspension, certainly my advice would be to accept any suspension and serve it immediately so that the premises can get back on an even keel. If the premises licence is revoked, then I would have to take instructions, but it may be that my client wishes to appeal that, in which case we go into this lengthy court process due to COVID, probably take 12 months at least, during which there are no sort of additional measures in place, and it could look a lot different by the time it gets to court. My client maintains that those issues will never arise again on those premises. So I'd ask him to let him prove to you, this is his first chance. So please, would you consider issuing a suspension of the premises to mark his failure to supervise, rather than the ultimate sanction of revocation? I don't know if Mr. Kadir has anything else he'd like to add.
No, thank you. No, that's all. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Chair, I think I'll leave it at that, unless anybody has any issues arising.
Well, thank you for that, Victoria, for your summing up. Now I think we will ask yourselves and the officers to leave the meeting, and we will then discuss and go through what our decision will be, and then we will come back to you with our decision.
Smashing. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
I don't know how long we'll be. just to say to everybody and the public out there, the licensing meeting has ended for the moment for us to discuss the points that have been raised and argued in this hearing. We will then make a decision, and then we will come back, and the live stream will be back open at 1:45 p.m. Thank you.